play your best shot. Okay, don't play a shot only just because you think that's cool or you think that you have it in front of you. Okay, play your best fucking shot in college. Okay, let it fail. Let it absolutely, thoroughly, magnificently fail. But play your best shot when you're in college. And when you're playing that best shot, you learn a lot. You learn a lot more. You'll get a lot of confidence because you're playing that best shot. But if it's not best shot, it's not worth the time in college. Play normal shots after college. In college, it should be grand.
Damn. Yeah. Hey guys, welcome back to Don't Follow the Leader. My name is Noah Martins, and if this is your first episode, this is a platform where I interact with the people I like to call society's exceptions. I'm talking entrepreneurs, business leaders, comedians and entertainers. Basically people who are living lives very different from the norm. I try to understand how they think and what motivates them. So if you think that's something you'd be interested in, it would be pretty cool if you could subscribe to this channel and join us on this journey. Like seriously, do it now, please. I was going through my analytics recently and I found that less than 50% of the people that watch my videos have actually subscribed to the channel. Guys, subscribing to the channel is free. I'm not even asking you to press the bell icon yet. It would make a pretty big difference to me. It would mean a lot, and I work pretty hard on these videos, so it would be cool to have your support. If you could go subscribe, that'd be pretty cool. Also follow me on social media for more updates and other fun content. Today's really special guest is Akhil Singh, a serial entrepreneur and the co-founder of Questt.com. Questt is an edtech startup that is looking to revolutionize the way that students interact with evaluations. In this episode, we primarily discuss Akhil's journey as an entrepreneur and his biggest insights from his experience so far. Given that Akhil has so much experience running and working with startups, the insights that he gives in this episode are not just interesting, but also very well thought out and articulated. And I think that there's a lot that everybody, whether or not you're interested in entrepreneurship, can take from this episode. Akhil is also a BITS Goa alumnus, so we discuss college life, what you can do to be as productive as possible in college, and a bunch of other stuff in this episode too. Honestly, this has been one of my favorite episodes so far, so I'd suggest that you stick till the end. If you want to listen to this passively, you could click the link down below to listen to it on Spotify, or else just watch it on YouTube. Hope you enjoy, hope you stick till the end. Let's get to the episode. So I'll start by asking the most relevant and obvious question. How has the pandemic been treating you so far?
On different fronts, I think professionally, it has been good for us. I'll not say pandemic has been good for us, but because we are in the edtech sector, the market suddenly expanded from 10 million online students to almost 100 plus million online students. A lot of money started to pour in as a VC funding. The scope of innovation really got broad, right? The scope of what you can do with technology in education really got expanded, because earlier you did not have teachers and students carrying their specific tech devices. They did not have tech literacy. They were not connected online together. So professional front, it has been really good. Personally, definitely I before pandemic, I was traveling. Probably I was making 4 trips a month. So I've not been going out. All of them were official trips, but I've not been going out post-pandemic. I've not seen my family members. All of those things have been there. So I think that's how it has been.
Okay. For all the people who don't know about real learning, could you tell us about it? Tell us what it is.
I'll talk about the problem that we're trying to solve, and probably then I can talk about the product. Right. So at the core of it is the problem that teachers and professors all over the world invest huge amount of time in just checking answer sheets, right? A major part of their job profile is just checking answer sheets. And what comes out of this process is an outcome which is no real insight. We tell students that you got 82 marks, 8 CGPA, B grade. What does it mean, right? You have no real insight what is strength, what you should be focusing on. So a process where so much of human input or manpower is going is yielding a very suboptimum output, right? So that's what we're trying to change using technology. Before pandemic, we started with reallearning.in, which was an artificial intelligence based platform for evaluation of handwritten answer sheets, right? But post pandemic, we have pivoted to what we are calling Questt, QUSTT.com. It's still pre-launch. We're launching in next 1 week. It's called Questt, and at Questt, we do the same thing, but we help teachers evaluate homeworks or formative assessments, like let's say for university purpose, let's say tube tests, right? So we help teachers reduce 90% of their time in that process. And in that, by reducing teachers' time, we gather huge amount of insight for the students. So that's largely what we are doing. If you think of it, like we give a lot of different names to the problem of education. We call that there's this problem in education, that problem in education. But if you really think of it, it's largely a logistics problem. One human, a teacher, is dealing with, let's say, 200 teachers, 3-4 subjects, and he or she has to decide how a child is performed, right? They're dealing with huge amount of data. So the only output they can come up with is marks, right? Or grades. And when the output is marks, or let's say the key performance index or KPI is marks, everyone tries to optimize for that, right? And that's where everything goes wrong, right? Everyone's just trying to optimize for marks. And why is marks the KPI? Because a human is dealing with so much of data. So they reduced it to one numerical data point to quantify the learning ability or learning anatomy of a child. So if we solve for teachers, if we reduce their time in the process, we can just turn the education upside down for good. So that's what we do.
Right. And I want to learn about the journey so far, but I want like a sequential understanding of how you got here. So before we talk about real learning, could you tell me about your background and maybe the most significant events before the genesis of real learning? I know this is your third startup. So yeah. So what's your background like? What prepared you for real learning?
Yeah, interesting. So I was at BITS Goa. 2000. I was 2010 to 14 batch. I am an early graduate, so I moved out of college in 2013, and I started a startup called Cubito.in, which was a cab sharing platform. Let's say Uber Pool or Ola Share of the Day in 2012, end of 2012 in Goa itself, right? And we raised a funding from one of the HNIs in Goa, and we moved then to Bangalore to set up the office. And we were running around 500, 600 cabs. It was a good show that we put up in Bangalore. But then Ola came up with huge amount of funding, right? And we didn't know that so early in your career you can raise hundreds of crores, right? Without really proving the monetization model and everything else. And the next day when Ola got this kind of funding, we were out of cabs. We were out of literally business to run what we were doing. And there we pivoted to a B2B model. I moved out of the startup. I moved out of the startup and because I understood that, okay, this space is, I understood that I don't have the understanding to build such a huge entity or play in such a huge market right now, because I was coming from a school of thought, and this is back in 2012-13, right? We have much more knowledge on just internet, and a lot of people in Indian ecosystem know much more now, right? 12-13 was really early days. We did not have so much of understanding, and so much of funds weren't available. There were very few limited funds, and then there is a whole leaf excel story in Indian startup ecosystem. That's a different thing.
And also you were like what, 21, 22 years old?
I was third year. I was just crossed my third year, right? I just entered my fourth year.
Right.
So I was 21, 21, yeah. So yes, that's what happened, and I took a break because that was like that. Those 12 months were really like took a lot. We were working 16, 17 hours a day. And then a lot of hustle because that business was operations driven, right? So there was a lot of stuff happening. We were building tech. We were a team of 10, 12 people, if I'm not wrong, at that point in time. And so that's where we understood, okay, probably we need to understand more to build this thing. So let Ola so we wanted that problem to be solved. We said, okay, let one guy solve it, and they solved it excellently. Now we know the result. And so I moved out of that startup, and then took a 4-5 months break, did some treks in Himachal Pradesh, and then came back and started another startup which was called Invol.in, INVOL.in. And Invol also actually came through a pivot. Okay, we understood, we thought that there's so much of commentary, so many discussions happening on social media, but we miss that one place where we can have good discussions. Okay. Like the kind of discussions we used to have in college, where I can listen to someone and just not say for the sake of saying, understand and then reply and all of those things, right? So we thought that probably world needs a better place for discussions. Okay. And we launched a platform called Awaremonk.com. And but then when we understood the problem more deeply, we understood that in India, most of the people, like take away the youngsters, right? Take away the college youth. Most of the people are watching debates or in their mind participating in the debates while watching a news channel. Okay. During 7 to 10 p.m. or whatever. And we understood that if we can make this news a dialogue, right? Can we let these people participate in these discussions, right? And that's where we started this platform, Invol.in, which was then used by some very big news channels in the country: Times Now, ET Now, Mirror Now, Network 18, CNN, ETV Group. So all of these guys. So Invol.in was a channel of engagement for, it was a second screen of engagement for news channels, right? So if you have seen news a couple of years ago on all of these channels, you'll see Invol.in running on the left panel, where all the participants were making their commentary, right? They were engaging with other people who were watching the news at that point in time. They were participating in polls. They were also agreeing or disagreeing with the panelists, right? So the news anchor can now say that, okay, 80% of the people disagree with you. So what you're saying doesn't make sense to my audience, right?
Correct.
The benefit for news channel was they were getting the data in real time, right? They were tweaking their programming based on the kind of viewership. So if a particular program gets more viewership or more engagement, they would try to run the same kind of thing again, or they would try to put that anchor or try to put those panelists again. So they got a feedback in terms of data, how in terms of how can they program their programming better. How can they like tweak their program to make get better viewership? Also, they use this data to sell to their clients, advertisers, right? So there is no data currently, like there is no reliable source of data in television even now, right? They rely on Bark, and we just saw what happened with the Bark incident. So they get data in 1 week. That data is based on just 20,000 sets, which is extrapolated to the complete population of the country. So these were different problem statements that we solved with Invol.in. When we started, we knew we can take over the complete TV space. We can convert TV into a dialogue, right? TV is a monologue. We can convert TV into a dialogue and build a social network around it, because there are lakhs of people watching that one TV soap at one point in time. They want to interact with each other. They have the same emotions, right? So if they are connected on one platform at that point in time while watching this, they can start to interact with each other, and that can be fun for them. So when we started with news. Then we were moving to sports, and we were very close to signing up MOU with the IPL, right? Okay. IPL, and there was a Pro Kabaddi League, PKL, two different sports events where people, while they're watching IPL, they can make commentary and they can interact with lakhs of other people who are watching IPL. They can make their fantasy leagues, and then they can do so many things at the same point in time. But at the same point in time, Star came with Hotstar, right? And they said no entry to any other third-party technology company. And similar thing happened with every other TV channel in the country. Sony came with their own OTT, Colors came with their own, Z came with their own. So we understood, okay, we might not be able to make a huge business from here. Okay, we are doing really good with news, but we have very good cash flows. We have a team which has built, shipped. So very practically, let's start to solve some of the problems that people really want to be solved.
Okay.
And in Involve.in, one of our investors was a edtech veteran. So we started to look at edtech also as also a space. And real learning was one of the ideas we started to play with. Okay, we were not really in a hurry to implement. We were just going and speaking to a lot of teachers and professors, understanding the pain point, and we understood that they really, really, absolutely hate checking of answer sheets or homework or whatever it is. Okay, they have done their PhDs or masters, and they're just dealing with the same set of data by checking it again and again over the year. And they spend like 3 to 4 hours a day in some cases, otherwise a couple of hours every day checking formative assessments, homeworks, right? That's where we understood this is a real problem to solve, and this is a hard problem to solve. But if we solve this, we are not just saving time for teachers. We'll be generating huge amount of data for the students. And if we can get this data, we can make the complete education data driven. And once the education is data driven, a lot of stuff will change, right? So we understood the problem is spread throughout the country and probably throughout the world. And if we solve it, there is a huge outcome. So it's a long-term game. We can't think of it in days and months. We have to think of it in years, right? We'll get to the right solution also in a few months or probably a year down the line. And that's what happened if you see it that way. So that's how the whole real learning.in journey has been. And to start with, I came to BITS Goa. I told director, this is what you're trying to do. And he said, okay, great. Let's start with our professors. And we got some extremely useful insights. Probably your paper might have also been evaluated using real learning.in. I don't know. But yeah, so that's how the journey has been.
Got it. So Involve.in pivoted to real learning, or did y'all dissolve that and start a new entity?
Yeah, so we dissolved that and started a new entity. Okay. Because it was a completely different space. It needed a completely structured, complete redesign of things. Yeah.
Okay. So what happened then after the genesis? What's next for, say, a first-time entrepreneur watching and who wants to know what they do after they have the idea? What happens next? You've got your idea, you've done a little bit of market research, you've realized that this is a problem that exists for people, and you've got some understanding of the degree of the problem. So then what do you do?
I think for the first time entrepreneur, I would say that prepare yourself for at least a 10-month journey. Okay. By this, I mean that prepare your cash flows. Okay. And by this, I mean that if you don't have a 10-month journey, you would not be able to realize the potential of the problem and solution that you're trying to come up with. Okay, the problem that you're trying to solve. And if you don't have, I'm not talking about college entrepreneurs, that's just someone who has passed out of college. Because in college, your free thought is really free. You don't have to pay for your free thought, unlike people who have graduated.
Right.
So who've just graduated, if they are dabbling with the idea, they have to prepare for 10 months at least, is what I'll say. And there are two ways to do that. First is you make sure that you have the money, you and your co-founder has the money to survive for 10 months. Okay. If you don't have that, then try to arrange from friends, family. If that's not possible, try to find one client and build the minimum viable solution for them and try to get the revenues from that one stream. Don't think that this is a business model that I'll replicate. That might be, but keep your eyes open and just understand the problem and the market for next 5-6 months. If not that, because if you've done your research well enough, try to raise a pre-seed round. Okay. If you know that this market is huge, what the phrase that's commonly said now is there's a founder market fit. You know the problem deeply. You know how it can be solved. So try to raise a pre-seed round before even building the product. Don't build the product and just try to solve if you have a runway of 2 months, 3 months, because you will end up losing opportunity if one exists, right? If there is an opportunity and if you try to do something in 2 months, 3 months, and you know you can't move forward after 3 months, first you need to solve for that. First you need to get from 3 to 10 months. Once you have done that, you have enough runway to play in the market that you want to play. And also, we undermine the the research. Like I talked to a lot of entrepreneurs from BITS Goa as well, right? And what I feel is, I was just speaking to a second year team a couple of days ago, and they said, how should we optimize for revenues, right? And their product is not out yet. Their product is not well done yet. The market is not completely known to them. What are the different applications of their product? They don't know. And because they have been hearing other people, reading a lot of stuff. So speed starts to matter more than getting to know your market and trying to get to a PMF kind of a thing, right? And that's not a very good space to be in. And it appears that any kind of movement is good, but it's not. After just doing, let's say, 100 sales, 100 sales or 1,000 users, if it's a free product, you'll get stuck at a point where you would not know what to do, and you would see that the cash flows are not great enough. The investors are not taking interest because investors are seeing from more of a macro view, can this become a huge business or not? And you have not done your study enough in understanding this can be a huge business or not. So do your study, look at it from more of academic point of view than a business point of view, the problem solution statement. Once you have got that strongly established, then try to optimize for 10 months runway and then go into the market. That's how I would do it if I have to do it again. That's how I'm doing it when I'm doing it again. Yeah.
Right. Would you advise people to start up while they're in college?
For sure, I did. So, and as I said, that a free thought is really free in college, right? So you should definitely sit in front of BDOM in BITS Goa or wherever you are located, and imagine, right? Imagine how the world can be. Don't try to be an entrepreneur for the sake of it, right? Imagine the new paradigms, imagine the problems that you have faced, and can there be new solutions to it? And then try to, as an engineer or as a student, try to come up with a solution for this. Okay. Once you've done these two things, then think like an entrepreneur, is what I would say. That's how I would recommend people to do, right?
Got it.
Because there is huge scope, right? You have nothing to lose. You have 3-4 years of your life where you are with the best of the people, where you don't have liabilities. Give your best shot. Like, think more. Just don't stumble upon the first thing and say that, okay, I'll be an entrepreneur on this problem or this solution. Don't do that. You have a good enough time at your hand, very good people around you, and no liability. So that's the best time to just imagine and play the best shot possible. Okay.
Right.
That's what I would say. Yeah.
Okay. I want to make a comparison now and tell me whether or not it makes sense to you. Okay. So after reading up about you and listening to you now, I understand that as an entrepreneur, more often than not, what you're doing is new. And because of that, more often than not, it may not work, right? In stand-up, I do stand-up, and in stand-up, we call this bombing, right? Where the first time you do a joke, it usually doesn't work. But that's a part of the process of stand-up comedy, where you have to go on stage, you have to bomb, and when you bomb, you learn. When you succeed, you don't learn anything usually, right? Because when people succeed, it's like they're putting blinders on and they're not really analyzing what they do. So it seems like bombing is a concept that very much exists as an entrepreneur as well. So how do you deal with it when you bomb? Do you have to just accept that it's a part of the process and like treat it as a part of the process, or is it hard every time where it's like it's an existential crisis because something that you were sure was going to work didn't work? What is the experience of bombing as an entrepreneur like?
Interesting. So I think if you create a mind space that there will be bombing, right? And not just mind space, prepare for it. Okay. If you say, okay, I'll do 3 shows, and if I'm bombed all 3 times, I'll not do a stand-up again, right? Probably that's not the best way, because then you are putting too much stakes on luck that one thing will hit out in 3 different shots. So I think you need to have a mind space that you will be bombed, and don't even think of it like this. Think of it like solving a maths question. Okay, you took one approach, and when you got stuck somewhere, you found that, okay, I can't find the value of x taking this approach. Right. You go back, take another approach. You solve the question using energy equations, and you solve using momentum equations. You take different approach to solve the problem. Okay, and sometimes you're not able to solve the problem. That's a different thing altogether. So take enough time. Okay, so think of it like a 3 hours exam. Okay, so take the best shots. Look at the questions that will fetch you enough marks, and these are the questions that you can solve. So it's like, look at all the ideas that you can think of. Take the idea which has good enough returns is a wrong word, but good enough business, big enough market, and it's something that you know of. You have some expertise. You have learned enough about this concept, right? Then start to solve it. When you start to solve it, you take one approach. Sometimes it works. You get the answer. Go ahead, great, right? Sometimes you don't. You try to try a different approach. So make sure you're solving this question, and you have some limited time. It's not like you have unlimited time, right? So take different approaches in solving those questions, and know that in the first approach you would not get that. And that's why understanding that it's going to take 10 months before anything really starts to even work out. I'm not talking about serendipity, right? Serendipity, you built an app and it got viral. So you can't build for serendipity, right? Let that happen once you have built. So otherwise, have a mind space and a runway. Plan better before you start to really implement it. Right. That's how I think it becomes. Once you don't have that ego, okay, this is going to be every time you take something out of the world, this is going to be Facebook. If you don't have that in mind, be very academic in the approach. Try to look at it like a problem solution, and then let it shape itself.
Right. Yeah. So you have to be prepared to fail, basically, and you have to be willing to fail.
I would not say this. So I don't really. I think the ideologies of fail fast and stuff are not very good. Okay. I don't see them as the best of the approaches. So don't see failure as something that that should be there, right? So just understand that this whole problem solution is going to take time. Okay, and probably need resource.
Right.
And know that once you start to solve it, you might not get the solution in the first place, right? But you might, and because you have the runway and you have mind space, keep doing it in different approaches. Okay.
Right.
Like a lot of times we say that failure should be celebrated more. I don't think it should be even a function. Like, it should not be celebrated. It should not be looked down upon. It's a part of the process. That's what it is, right? So, and to let it be a part of the process, have bandwidth, have timeline, have mind space, have all of those three things. Don't get burnt out in just the first implementation that you do. Not emotionally, not mentally, not financially, not in any way. So have that runway. That's why I think failure is just a part of the process. It's like something that approach which did not work, or a market which did not really exist. Those are the things. So failure is also a very, very small word to engulf all of these things, right? What really happened, understand what really happened, and move on. And when you do it the next time, make sure that you know at least one more thing. So take that into account.
Right. What do you think is the hardest problem you've had to solve right now at Real Learning? And perhaps what principles of yours do you find, or what skills of yours do you find most useful in your daily problem solving? Because I understand that in a startup there's fires all the time. So what skills of yours, like, and this could be a very practical answer where you could tell me it's your coding skills, wherein like it's because of your knowledge of coding you can solve these problems, or it could be like people skills. Like, what do you think are first of all, what's the biggest problem you think you've solved at Real Learning, and secondly, what skills allow you to solve these problems?
So I'll answer the second question and then I'll answer the first one. I think the ability to think long term and aligning every team member to solve for long term. Don't just solve for today. There's a problem and you just solve for today. There's a problem tomorrow, you just solve for that. So don't solve for that. And that's largely different between a service and a product company as well. I'm just using one sentence with this. I think solve for long term. That's very that skill has helped me align every team member in understanding their part of the problems in much more detail. Okay. And then solve. So what might happen a lot of times is you might be solving a problem a day, okay, and you might continue for 3 months just solving that problem, and because you thought that problem was urgent all the time, okay. And what you could have done is, okay, I'll not ship anything for next 1 month, okay, but after 1 month, what I'll ship is going to be sturdy, is going to be a process that can be replicated, and I will not be firefighting with it at all, right? And that's, I think, extremely powerful, because that's how you build one thing and then you move forward. You are not just in the loop of solving that problem, be it a sales process, be it defining features of the product, be it building those features or building the product, or be it managing clients or managing customers, right? So if you have processes built for all of these things, everyone in their specific aspects have a lot more time space to innovate, to think, to solve for the next wave of customers, right? You're not just struggling with the existing customers all the time. And if you don't, if you have a source and flush out problem, you're not really doing anything at all, right? It looks like a lot is happening because you're adding a lot of people, but they're going down as well, right? So, and then you have a lot of people trying to put a blockage in that drain, but that doesn't help, right? So try to build this understanding that everyone needs to think and solve for long term. Gave everyone the mind space to plan properly. And once they were able to plan properly, they were not firefighting every day. Okay, there are definitely moments of firefighting because some of those plans will not work. But when you solve for those things as well, you don't solve just for today. You solve them for next 3, 4, 5 months, right? So I think this understanding has helped me a lot while building Real Learning and while building Questt. And the problem that we solved here was, so when you build for a new, this is very interesting, when you build for a new market, right? You don't know what you need to build, okay? And when you go out, if it's a real problem, your users will come out and ask for hundreds of solutions, okay? And you would think that you need to build everything, right? Customer is the king, and if you don't solve for them, and when the customers are paying, it becomes more important to solve for all of them. If they're not paying, you can create different cohorts. These 10% are not real customers that I have. These are just edge customers. I'll be solving for these 80-90% of the customers. But so in Real Learning, all of the clients were paid clients, and all of them came with huge amount of requests, right? Every day, the people who have sold, because we did not have a very stringent process of dealing with things, sold that they are obligated to ship this feature, right? And when they felt obligated, they started to put pressure on the product and the tech team. And when they got pressure, they started to ship not so robust products. And this cycle was a continuous cycle, and we were not moving forward. So I think that was a problem that we have solved by understanding, okay, take a deep breath in, wait, don't fight for today. Don't just try to run something that's not building up, but that's you're probably on a treadmill. You're not moving any distance. It just seems that you are running, but you're not really covering a distance. So yeah, I think these two things: understanding that you need to build a long-term solution, and aligning everyone in the team with that thought process has really helped us create a much solid foundation of what we're trying to build now.
Right. Okay. This kind of ties into that. What do you think are some things that students should learn while they're in college? It could be a skill, it could be some sort of experience. What do you think are some things that students should do while they're in college that way? It could be very practical also. Again, like if you tell me they should learn this language, that language, whatever, take this course. What do you think are some things that will help them a lot and maybe helped you a lot?
Sure, I think three things. And one is very, very basic and everyone is already doing it, which is learn some aspect of coding. Okay. Learn something to build. Okay. It can be as simple as just learning to design, just learn Figma, just learn something where you can build something. Okay. That's absolutely basic that one must have at least one part of it. Okay. Just some front end. Don't be a full stack. You need to know something that can help you prototype something. That's one. But I think two other things is skill to sell something. Okay, and I see that a lot of my experience. I see a lot of BITS and IITians having this skill because I think probably it comes from the place of confidence as well. But as students need to learn to sell something, sell their idea, think about it, don't hesitate, sell it right. As I think Kunal Shah said a lot about how India doesn't have a culture of dating, so that's why we don't really have people who can sell themselves in the right way. And that's absolutely important. You might become a techie, you might become a product guy, entrepreneur, or whatever. Sales is an inherent feature you need in yourself to succeed, right? It's very important because you'll have to convince people in terms of what you believe. So that's extremely important. That try to sell people. Try to whatever idea comes to you. Try to articulate that idea and talk about to people. That idea can be in your a thought that came while you were reading microbiology or electronics, or a entrepreneurial idea, whatever, right? Or a different approach you want to take in the next dance show that the group is going to do. Wherever you apply that, but learn to sell thoroughly. And selling is not just speaking. Learn to articulate, learn to understand the psychology of the other guy, learn to be patient and hear him out, and then take him through a process where he can understand your thought process and imbibe that. Okay? If the other guy is understanding what you're saying. So it's not just learn to sell. Selling is not just selling, is a process again. First, you need to have a thought through understanding of what's that you're trying to sell. Once you are 100% convinced, you need to articulate that. Then in the process of selling or interacting with the other guy, you need to make sure that it's your responsibility to imbibe the complete thought process in the person who's sitting in front of you. So I think that's completely missing in our, I would not say education system, but in the colleges as a life as a student. I think third is a new thing where think of productizing the solutions. Okay. Where creating template to the solution, which can be replicated. Again, this is not applicable just to building tech product. It's to anything else that you do. Like when you do a joke, you also create a template, right? You can fit different things and that template works across various categories, right? I cannot recall, you might be able to tell some of them, but you take some template, it starts to work. So every time when you're doing a joke, you're not reinventing the wheel again and again. Okay, people laugh on this thing, people have memory of this thing, so they'll recall this something. So you have a template of solving that. So I think productizing solutions is another thing that people should. I think that again, it's a very subjective phrase that I'm making, but it's something that people should try to play with. Yeah.
Right. I'll ask the last few questions and then I'll let you go. I mean, last few meaning I'll do 2-3 if you're fine with that.
Sure.
Okay, what's your favorite and least favorite part of your job right now?
Favorite is productizing solutions. So understanding the problem and creating productized features around those problems. So I think that will always remain the favorite thing that I do. and that has kept me going for last 6 years as well. It's nothing else. It's not sales. It's not anything else. I like all of those other parts as well, but that's the most fun part. And the least favorite part. There has to be many, but excuse me. So I think I take a lot of other things as a part of the process, so I'm not able to name it something that I dislike.
Right.
But I would say, though we have a process in place for now, but I would not say I would call it the most challenging. Okay, I would not say least favorite.
Sure.
But the most challenging is hiring. Okay. Because if you go wrong, then you have to let the people go off, and that's also a very terrible process. But to understand that you are making the right decision, I think that's something that I'm still to learn in the right way, in the best possible way. How to, like, whoever I worked with for a couple of months and then hired them, all of them have been fantastic decisions.
Right.
But the interview hiring has not really worked for me in a great way. I think that's something that I am dabbling with to get to a process where I can hire the best of the people. So I think not the least favorite, but the most challenging part of the job.
Got it. What are some books or podcasts that you recommend often?
I would not say I don't really listen to a lot of podcasts, so I'm sorry for that. But
Sure.
In terms of books, I think a lot of people would have read. So read this book by Harpreet from Co-Cubes.
Okay. It just came out.
Just came out. So that's actually what happens in a startup. Okay, have you read it?
No, not yet. Update. I have read it now.
Actually, what happens in a startup, the everyday struggle that you have is very well articulated there.
Right.
Read that to understand what really happens.
Okay.
I think read Rahul Chandra's The Moonshot Game to understand how VCs think.
Okay.
Right? It's a very honest, note of how VCs think, how they approach a particular problem solution statement. And I read a lot of what we might call self-help, but books which, so like I just read Why We Sleep. It's a great book. Okay. So, and after reading that, I've started to sleep at least 8 hours.
Okay.
Before that, I was very comfortable with 5-6 hours, and that has affected my productivity a lot. So I would say, yeah, these 3-4 books are something that are on top of the mind right now that people should read. Yeah.
What's your favorite memory from BITS Goa?
Oh, a lot of them. So this is so one of my friend was participating in the VP election, vice president election. Yeah. I think that phase where we started doing campaign for him, he lost eventually.
Okay.
But I think that whole process where everyone bonded, campaigned, done a lot of stuff.
Right.
I think that phase was really interesting for all of us.
Okay. I've seen my fair share of startup related media, TV shows and movies, and there are always these moments that like in Silicon Valley, have you watched Silicon Valley?
I think I saw three or 4 seasons.
Yeah. So when they get their first office, or when they solve a very hard problem, what do you think is your favorite moment so far in your startup journey?
I think couple of them. One was definitely when we closed our seed round for Cubito in Goa itself.
Okay.
And we celebrated at John's.
Okay.
So that's definitely memorable. That's one. Second is when we first closed the Times Group deal for Involve.in. I remember we were in a very, very tough state and flew down to Mumbai to meet the top bosses from Times. and the meeting wasn't really going so well. Everyone was just saying, okay, we can solve this problem while doing this. Why should we pay you and stuff. And there was one definitely a moment, if we make that sales, we'll sustain. Otherwise, we'll die. Okay. We were there in terms of our complete journey. And here enters the CEO and he says, okay, so in the mail I wrote that this is a remarkable idea. Okay. Remarkable, or I used one superlative term to define the idea. Game changing, remarkable something. So he came and he tapped on my shoulder and said, okay, I've heard you've got this remarkable idea. Okay. Talk about it. And he heard of it for 30 seconds. And he said, guys, we are doing it. Wrap it up. Whatever he is asking for, let's sign that up and move forward. Okay. Oh. And when I moved out, I remember I went to this chai point and I was almost crying that, okay, we made it happen. We're going to sustain for a long term. Right. So I think these two moments have been really, really pivotal in the journey. Definitely many other moments have been very important. Just one more to add to the previous one.
Sure.
Yeah. So when I moved out of Cubito, again, I moved out of that. I was trying to put in place Awaremonk, which became Involve.in. And we were trying to raise funds, a lot of problems. We were not able to. So a lot of financial crunch. And I had to pay. I was put up in Gurgaon, and suddenly I see that a lot of money has been transferred to my account by my then girlfriend, now wife. Okay. And she said, this is your pre-seed money for this thing that you're going to do. Right. Okay. And I understood that she was taking freelance work for last 3-4 months to kind of get that money along to, it was close to, I think, 10 lakh or something. So that really helped me sail through that journey, right? So, and then build Awaremonk. So I think, these three movements have been really pivotal in making me play a long-term game. Right. So,
So as the long-term guy, do you have like an end goal that
Frankly, I don't. Okay. So I remember one of my friends asked in college when I was putting up Cubito, and he said, what if this fails? You're not sitting for placements. What if this fails? I said, there are a lot of problems in the world that can be solved. So I'll look at another problem that can be solved. Look at another problem that can be solved. And I'm glad that I've been doing it. Right. So I don't think I have an end goal. I really, really thoroughly enjoy the process. Right. And that's what keeps me going. Yeah.
Okay, and my final question, what advice do you have for college kids right now in BITS Goa and any other college in India?
Yeah, I would say focus on gaining skill and expanding your horizon of imagination. Okay. I'll tell you for a fact, there are very few people who think. So start thinking through things. A lot of people who do, and people who think are really valuable. Okay. So become the guy who can think. So someone who can think through the problem, through the solution. I'm not saying be a thinker and just think, right? But think thoroughly before you do, before you take steps. Actions. So I say it this way, that there's a lot of action in inaction, right? When you're not really doing things, but you're thinking, there's a lot of activity that's happening. That's a lot of churning of your thought process that's happening. And sometimes there is very little, there is a lot of inaction in action. It looks like you're doing a lot of stuff, but you're not doing. So when you're in college, you have that luxury to think through things, to have projects which have not worked, let's call failed projects. So do a lot of them. And whenever you are implementing something, I'm talking more of as an entrepreneur now, detach yourself and try to see, ye really chala hai ki nahi chala hai? It worked or it didn't work, right? Do people really need it? Right? Question that every day, every week, not every day, question that every week, every month. Take a pause and totally detach yourself. Understand what's happening. Is it worth going forward? Is it worth taking next steps? Or should we tweak this? Should we tweak that? Because when you keep on doing things, a lot of debris of things that gets accumulated which shouldn't have been there, right? And you are never able to move that out unless and until you take a step back, think. So focus a lot. Be a hustler. Do a lot of stuff. There's no doubting that. But make sure that for a college student, two things. One, you are taking your best shot out. Okay, because this is a period where you don't have to pay for your time, for your existence. Post this, you have to pay for your existence, then your team's existence, then your family's existence. Not you. You are not the only one paying, but you have to have a shared responsibility for that. So in college, that is not there. So play your best shot. Okay, don't play a shot only just because you think that's cool or you think that you have it in front of you. Okay, play your best fucking shot in college. Okay, let it fail. Let it fail. Let it absolutely, thoroughly, magnificently fail. But play your best shot when you're in college. And when you're playing that best shot, you learn a lot. You learn a lot more. You'll get a lot of confidence because you're playing that best shot. But if it's not best shot, it's not worth the time in college. Play normal shots after college. In college, it should be grand. Yeah.
Damn. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you. Okay, we can be done with the interview, but like I just want to say, like, I really enjoyed this conversation. This has like honestly been one of my favorite episodes that I've recorded so far.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah. So cool. Thanks, man. Thanks a lot for doing this. Thank you so much for watching that episode. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe and share this with all your friends. See you in the next one.